Shalom Dammit! This is Rabbi Sol Solomon with a Rabbinical reflection for the week of February 8th, 2015. What is the purpose of education? In an idealistic sense, it is to broaden the mind, to open young people to a world greater than themselves that they have to wade into in order to become productive members of society. Or, more simply put, live and learn. But one can also say the purpose of education is to take a bunch of kids who are too stupid to be left alone during post-adolescence and corral them all in one place before we inflict them willy-nilly upon the planet. Well, you don't get kids much dumber or potentially dangerous than the yutzes at UC Davis, the University of California, Davis. Pro-Palestinian, liberal whack-job teenagers who comprise the rotting corpse that is the student body voted to boycott Israel over the country's treatment of the poor Pallies. In a vote that passed 8-2, these bleeding-heart buttheads recommended that the university divest itself of all business dealings with the land of milk and honey. The SJP, whose letters stand for Students for Justice in Palestine, though they could just as easily stand for Suck My Jewish Penis. The SJP cheered and waved Palestinian flags as the vote went down in their favor. Best of all, as Jewish and pro-Israel students shuffled out of the meeting hall, the Arab sympathizers began chanting, Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Now, where have we heard that poem before? Oh yeah! Every time a Muslim with a grudge and an AK-47 decides to vent his spleen on a bunch of innocent civilians, those are the words, Allahu Akbar! It may sound like a religious prayer, but it's more like a death yell. We heard it from Nidal Hassan, who killed 13 people in Fort Hood a few years ago. And we heard it last month with a French accent when the Koran crazies lit into Charlie Hebdo for drawing cartoons. I don't need to tell you how I feel about the Israeli-Palestinian situation. But I will anyway. As I've said 15 quadrillion times, Israel is a country the size of a postage stamp created after the Holocaust for Jewish people to finally have their own homeland. Anyone else on it either has to live by Israel's rules or get the Allah out. And if you live in a country bordering Israel, or on land Israel gave back in the vain hope of trading acreage for peace, you better not be hostile, or we're going to stomp you like a wine glass at a wedding. But alas, up until that time, it's the Arabs and their misguided sympathizers that do the violence over and over again. After the UC Davis vote that the SJP won, remember, the anti-Semites weren't even satisfied with that. 2 days later, someone painted swastikas on the walls of the Jewish fraternity Alpha Epsilon Pi. Actually, they should call it Aleph Epsom Salt Chi, but that's for another time. It's unclear whether this act was perpetrated by Arabs or just white kids goaded by all the latent Hebrew phobia stirred up by the vote. Either way, UC Davis has a nasty hurricane coming. I don't mean a riot. I mean the whooshing sound of Jewish students exiting a place of higher learning that has sunk to a valley of lower squirming. It's the sound of Jewish alumni divesting their donations and bequests from UCD and sending them to the UJA. It's the whooshing sound of freshman applications and application fees being turned into paper kites because little Missy Horowitz and her 1,500 SAT score now chooses to attend USC or UC Berkeley instead. People at the university say the graffiti and the protests and the threats are coming from outside sources and not the college kids themselves. How convenient. You light a torch and you wonder why someone behind you screams fire. Well, I'm screaming too. Screaming at the retarded students of UC Davis who buy into this wah-wah right of return, push Israel off the map garbage. And all this time, what's been happening in the Arab world? More beheadings, hostages being burned alive, kidnappings and attacks, business as usual in the radical Muslim cyclone everywhere they are. And yet Israel is the bad guy. Students of UC Davis, in my grade book, you get an F for flunk and a U for uninformed. I realize you probably can't spell, so I'll put them together for you. F-U. This has been a Rabbinical reflection from Rabbi Sol Solomon, Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York.